us.
Lord be with us.
Munson and the Geeza. Munson and the Geeza. Reporting from the scene. Munson and the Geeza. News in every ride.
Hi, is that? Were you working on a new theme tune for us?
I'm working. Oh, I'm always working.
Always working.
I've got to take these glasses off. These are my reading glasses, but that's the
could
only
put some
thing
on.
I can do.
Would it make you more comfortable if I put some on?
No, what would make me more comfortable is taking them off.
Okay, let's do that. Okay. Do you want to take your bra? Would you like to take your bra and your high heels off as well? Make yourself really comfortable.
Not with the
no.
big
Okay,
J
sorry. I didn't notice. I'm so sorry.
You didn't notice?
He can see everything anyway, so it doesn't matter.
He can see everything anyway. Yeah, I just would like
and forgives you.
He does forgive me. He forgives you as well.
Yeah,
also, you said the other day you asked me if I had a direct line to Jesus, and I mentioned that all of us have got a direct line. All of us have got a direct line.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Yeah, I feel it.
Yeah, so I've got.
Oh, go on.
Yeah,
no. After you, because Jesus is watching. I want to come across really well tonight.
I don't know. I don't know if I told you the story about how I went to.
The optician?
I got an SMS. Did I mention this story before? I got an SMS from This is Portugal Health Service.
Oh, have you had your vaccination?
6 so far. Yeah,
well done, mate.
So,
today is that?
Yeah, today. Yeah, and trust the science.
Good boy.
What are we doing? We're getting demonetized in the first 5 minutes. But anyway, I think I mentioned because I was diagnosed as pre-diabetic, whatever that means. But I got that. Yeah. I got an SMS from the Portuguese Health Service a couple of weeks ago, inviting me to go for a eye test.
Mm-hmm.
I did tell you this story, didn't I? I'm sure
you did, yeah.
Because I mentioned I've been having some problems and kind of been in denial a bit. But anyway, I went and they said there's nothing diabetic wrong with you, so go have a proper eye test. So I went and had an eye test.
But this is a fish and chip shop, yeah.
And I'm long sighted. Yeah, but it's a fish and chip shop, yeah. But I'm long. Yeah, got run over on the way there and all that. Yeah, but I'm long sighted. So these glasses are ridiculous. I can literally. What it means is as opposed to my mum, for example, who used to have to hold things really close to her face to see to read anything. I have to hold things far away.
Your arms aren't long enough. You're short-armed as well as long-sighted.
Yeah. So I kind of these are kind of like magnifying. They're just like big magnifying glasses, but they're awful. The only thing that you can do with them is read.
Science works. I think that's how the physics works with glasses. They kind of change things like a magnifying glass does.
Yeah, I suppose they do.
Bombshell, obviously.
I suppose they do. Yeah.
Right. Good evening, everybody who's joined us. Thank you so much for being here. Much appreciated. Do let us know who you are. Some people prefer not to, and I understand that. Sometimes sometimes I'm reluctant to announce myself on this show. It's quite controversial at times. Today, I suspect is no exception. And our theme, once Tony has cleared his pipes, is: do you want peace or not? Quite a direct question, really, which...
Ricardo Abonado just asked me where I bought the glasses. And in the end, because I really can't remember, I lose track now because I have my sort of own YouTube channel, and then I have my other social media, and then I've got I'm nothing like Carl, who's got 74 Facebook groups, 18 WhatsApp groups, and I don't know how many. I've kind of lost track, but I've got a few myself, and I lose track of where I've mentioned it. Yeah. But when I went to the optometrist in Portugal, they quoted me, I think, over 250 euros for the cheapest pair of glasses. So I ended up just going to my local pharmacy, and she actually spent quite a bit of time with me. Let me try on different ones until I got one that they're probably actually a little bit too strong. But I literally
grow into them, won't you?
I only wear them. When I'm trying to look, to be honest with you, I don't really wear them that much.
No.
That's the thing.
You don't want to become dependent, do you?
No, I don't really.
How many fingers? How many fingers am I holding up, Tony?
I mean, my eyesight's not that bad. Oh my
How many
God,
fingers am I holding up?
Wow, that's creepy. I know what you're doing, but it is quite a good effect. Quite a good effect, yeah.
All right. Are they bisexual?
No, that's what I need. I need some bisexual ones so that I can have it like that. And then you can look.
You look up and down people.
I'd actually just like some new eyes. I think that would be, but I don't think
we're not quite there yet. I don't think.
No.
I'm here to sing the praises of dear leader Dingus Khan. Oh, is that is that a new name for Donald Trump?
Just to add, Ricardo, just finally on that note, 17 euros, just in case you're wondering.
Wow, bargain! And they spent time with you as well.
And they spent time with me, yeah. To be fair, this is the pharmacy in Lagarish de Bear. I was probably our only customer that day, you know what I mean?
Do I detect a little bit of frisson as well?
The most exciting, well.
Will you be going back, Mr. Tony? You don't have to answer that. All right, yeah. Okay. The latest are very sexual, in fact.
She tested my eyesight and spent a bit of time with me, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, very nice. Okay. Which yes, okay. There's all sorts of things I want to say but won't. Anything else? I was going to say, is there anything else that you want to get off your chest before we get to the meat of the matter, which isn't the most suitable metaphor for you, is it, or whatever that is?
Not with Big J.
He's not vegan. It's you. I'm thinking. It was the fish and the loaves. If may I bring your attention to the fish and the loaves rather than veggie burgers and loaves?
Yeah. Do you know there's a few people bring up the Bible. It can be quite funny the things people bring up when you say you're a vegan. That's why I always try to.
It sounds like a night in Casualty. Somebody just brought up the Bible. Wow.
No, but that's why I always. It's just one of the things they bring up. That's why I always try to say. I try to keep it simple. Say, listen, I don't eat animals because I don't want to pay. I don't want to personally pay for animals to be killed and tortured. For my plate, right? And then that's it. And then everything else is just noise, right? But I had one recently. They were talking about in the Bible, for example, there's references to fish and the fish and loaves thing. But apparently, as well in Hebrew, and not just Hebrew, there's quite a lot of languages where it works like this. Meat actually just means food. Yeah. And so for example, I've seen this in China. In Chinese, for example, rice just means food. Rice can mean rice, and it could also just mean food. So people will ask you, for example, have you eaten your rice yet? And it's just like saying, how's the weather in English? Have you eaten yet? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, and I got a real sense of how precious meat used to be, because somebody gave me some chorizos, like handcrafted chorizos from not central Portugal, but the interior, more of an interior place than a tourist place. Yeah. And the art of chorizo is to make meat last, to prize it and make it last a long time and preserve it. And presumably people would be slicing off the smallest bit just for the flavor and taste, rather than like meat at every single meal that we enjoy in our current situation.
Well, even in England, I mean, I never really thought about it that much, but I do remember going to the Isle of Wight when I was, I was very much a meat eater. And I remember they had an exhibition at the castle there that was talking about the different meat, the different food that. Sorry, I just got caught off by Ocean Weller. Well, you're not a vegan. You can't be a part vegan. It doesn't make any sense. But
that's you told Ocean Dweller.
but the worst
thing bringing it up is that we get distracted by a vegan conversation. Which
well, I'll just say one last thing, which was on the Isle of Wight. I do distinctly remember they spoke about it, and they said that the only people who ate meat back in those medieval times were the very wealthy and royalty, and that most peasants or working class, if you could call the working class people back then, were living on like beer and bread. You know what I mean? So
that's great.
Like cheese was a luxury, you know
very
what I mean?
Carby. Yes, that's right. And occasional intense flavored things rather than having it every day now. And if I could just put a punctuation mark into the vegan offshoot there. I saw this meme and thought of you. So this, on behalf of everybody who wants to argue with Tony about being a vegan, let's not, because he's resolute and I respect that. And he takes a joke as well. The insufferable personality competition. The meat is murder guy. You got this, champ. Nobody can stand us vegans. And then the lycra-clad cyclist guy turns up. At least you're not a cyclist, eh?
Yeah,
Oh, no.
not so much these days. I was a cyclist in. I tell you a funny thing. In Hong Kong, I was because I was a mountain biker. I was kind of not very often on the road, but I was sometimes. And I had a very good friend in Hong Kong. Just for anyone who doesn't know, I lived in Hong Kong for a decade before moving to Portugal. And one of my very good friends in Hong Kong was a guy called Martin Turner, who's an activist, who's a cycling activist.
In Hong Kong?
Yeah. Because in Hong Kong, the most difficult thing to be probably is that, like, for example, I can tell you guys, if you ever go to Hong Kong, do not think a zebra crossing is going to help you. That people just drive through. It's very, very car oriented. And actually, being a cyclist is possibly the worst thing to be. You're way down the pecking order when it comes to rights, I suppose.
Oh,
so
really?
even when you go on the cycle path, there'll be people jogging and walking and parking and all sorts of things on cycle paths. So it's quite difficult. And every year I used to go out, and there was a thing called the Ride of Silence, and we all used to go out, thousands of us, and ride around Hong Kong to just try and build awareness of like how many cyclists there are.
Back to my kind of wokier days, I was also a cycle activist, and I remember going round and round a roundabout in Sheffield. And I'm going to swear now, just to give you, if anyone is offended or if there are children listening, you might just want to turn it off for a moment. But what do we do about that? I think Jesus knows what I'm going to do anyway.
Yeah, he knows.
And I was cycling around thinking I'm causing chaos here, and this will stick it to the man. And a kind of hairy-assed local builder bloke just said, like, get off the road, you effing twat, or something like that. And I was quite chastened by that, and I just did get off the road because I was scared. Yeah. And my ideological cycling principles kind of withered away in that moment. And that was it, really. It's not. You see, the vegan thing is always interesting, isn't it? Some people feel they have to speak, don't they? Although I don't suppose you would disagree with this, or would you? Veganism is an ideology. Vegetarianism is a dietary preference. That's a difference. So ideology first, right? Your decisions based on your beliefs and position in life.
I suppose so. I would say it's a philosophy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And you made that point today, I think, on your timeline. No question about that. And João Rogério, being quite Portuguese, not saying a greeting before starting talking. We like a bon dia, boa tarde before we get into the meat of it, which was the expensive glasses here in Portugal. Okay, vegetarian with a little fish, egg, don't eat any kind of meat. You're a cod botherer, I would say, would be one way of putting it. Now, before we go any further, and really, we have the Prince of Peace behind you, and we are seriously asking the question, do you want peace or not? With all this warmongering at the moment, this absolute obsession, three egotists have an argument in a special building, and the news channels are jammed for 5 days now? 4 days, are constantly mulling it over and painstakingly.
That's what they do.
That's what they do. Something's going on, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing everybody needs to do is stop taking the news seriously. Stop it. Do you know what I mean? These people have lied to us for years and years and years and years. All they do. If you're watching the news and you're getting cross, then you're a mug, because that's all they want. That's what they're trying to do.
It's an intelligence test, isn't it? It's an intelligence test.
That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to wind you up. They're trying to wind you up, because that's how they get their clicks. Yeah. But I mean, some things are really strange in there, because I've got to say, I know what we're talking about here. We're talking about, there was obviously that we're talking about the Zelensky versus Trump Vance thing, which was quite astonishing.
Yeah, it was astonishing. But I mean, really, 4 days of constant coverage?
Well, of course, someone drove a car into a group of people in Germany today, and we've got to keep that out of the news, don't we? So they'll keep this going for as long as possible.
And it was a surprise to my Good Morning Portugal viewers this morning that the PM was having a a confidence crisis vote on Friday. He went on TV to kind of fight for his job and his position. That was completely overshadowed as well. Exactly. Montenegro was on TV facing corruption allegations and being a bit too close to money-making activities of his family. Said he wasn't going anywhere, and attempted to explain himself. And he's really feeling the heat in this country. But I mean, I think the Portuguese are quite cynical about this. When the last prime minister resigned over similar matters, I was like, saying to Portuguese friends, wow, this is amazing. And they're like, oh, it happens all the time. There is that part of it. But also, you'd think foreigners would think, whoa, the PM is on, his job's on the line. This is serious, corruption and all that. No one knew about it because of the news jamming going on at the moment, which I call reality laundering. I don't know if you saw that yesterday. There's money laundering, which is a way of moving money around so it's not seen.
I think what was interesting for me was because I actually, when I watched the Trump Vance thing, I was as shocked as anyone else. I haven't seen politicians speak to each other that way. And I actually, weirdly, I was just looking at YouTube and I noticed it was live on Hindustan Times of all things, And I clicked on it. So I literally caught it right as that part started. But after watching it for 10 minutes and going, what the? And there's a couple of people that I instantly linked. I think you were one of them. There's like a handful of people when I see stuff like that. Because I'm interested in getting some feedback because I think, what have I just seen? I don't know. I don't know what to do with that. And so then I watched the whole thing. I watched it for 50 minutes and I thought, well, that actually, if you watch it for 50 minutes, and you think about the context of, because there's a lot of moving parts, right? There's first of all, what Trump campaigned on, how he speaks anyway, and also his art of the deal thing. So I had to think about it. Then the next morning I posted on Facebook my thoughts about it. And I thought, well, if things go according to what's been happening for the last few weeks, within a couple of days, Zelensky and Trump will be shaking hands and Zelensky will be agreeing to Trump's terms.
Yep.
So let's see. But that's my prediction. I could be wrong. And then the other thing that's happened is the papers are going, oh, Trump is so nasty. Now look at Europe stepping forward. Look at Europe coming together and stepping up to back. But that's exactly what Trump wanted.
Yep.
That's what he said before the thing. He said, I want Europe to step up. I don't want to keep putting money here. I don't want to send any troops here. Now Europe is stepping up and everyone's calling Trump an idiot. It's like, well, hang on a minute.
That was a daddy move, wasn't it? Let's face it.
That's what he said. That's what he said. But there's so many moving parts. If you've got so many moving parts.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a situation, aren't we, where I think we have like a pre-preparedness for aggression and anger. And it's these little tidbits and situations that feed that in people, whichever side of politics. We're having a political conditioning now, generally speaking, us human beings, whereby the fire's burning, and wherever you are on the political spectrum, there's always something available to you to put added fuel on your self-immolation and emotional reaction to political events in the world.
Yeah. See, for me, the more interesting thing is not Trump's bad behavior. Hey. Wow, it's news, man. Trump's behaving badly and being rude to people. Yeah. Who'd have thunk it, right? Who'd have thunk it? But what's interesting to me is actually watching Starmer position himself as being in the center of the EU, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's something that's interesting. And then another thing that's interesting is watching people
whilst not being in the EU.
While not being in the EU, right? Well, not yet. And then who are people suddenly trusting? So what's happening? So we've got like von der Leyen. We've got who was the Dutch guy? Mark Rutte. We've got Keir Starmer.
Yeah.
We got Macron. I mean, how many? I mean, you hate Trump, but these people are scum. They are utter scumbags.
When I saw that lineup of European,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? What, they've got your back? These are the people who've got your back.
I don't feel. I think the man behind you has my back more than those.
Of course.
Yes. And
that's what you can do when it's getting out of control. You
turn the other way.
Turn the other way.
Is it an orange? He's got. You see, I'm trying to figure out where you've got this illustration from. Is that a segment of orange or is it a fan?
I don't know. Isn't that like an old fashioned
turbo assisted? Good Lord,
turbo assisted.
There's
turbo
not
assisted Jesus. Yeah.
Clever Girl Reading is sharing quite a few things, and it's at times like this when I think, well, why don't you ring us up and join us on screen, because it must be really infuriating to have to express yourself in the little box there. And maybe we should do that more in the future.
Well, I think the other thing is because I said I got in I made a video about it, and I said to people, I said, look, the reason I've got this view is because I haven't got TikTok brain, and I think that offended people. I lost 10 subscribers so far on this video, but I said, I'll never do it again, Carl. I'll never speak my mind again on the internet.
Okay, yeah.
But I made the point of, because I remember, it doesn't seem, I mean, it was probably more than 10 years ago now, but I remember being told, I remember watching a documentary about how corrupt Ukraine was and how it was basically full of Nazis, and how there were Russian people, ethnically Russian people in eastern Ukraine who were basically being genocided by Nazis. I mean, this is something I saw with my own eyes and ears. And what was interesting is a couple of years ago on the internet somewhere, I found an actual, because I knew I remembered it, but I didn't realize how bad it was. I found an actual kind of montage of front pages of newspapers, and all of them, the Daily Mail, the Sun, the Guardian, all of them, left, right, whatever, were all in locks. You know how they do this lockstep thing when they've got a narrative they want to present. Now, at that time, the lockstep thing was Ukraine is corrupt, Ukraine is full of Nazis, Ukraine is making a genocide against the Russian people on the east coast of Ukraine. Now, that might not have been true, but what
it was well documented, though, isn't it? Yeah.
Do you get me though? So, but now I'm supposed to believe now what they're telling me is true. Do you know what I mean? So, so this is the thing. How can you? So the only one, and then you get called a Putin lover. But to me, the only one who's been consistent in the historical story has been Putin, who has said he wants to save his Russian people from the Nazis. And I would also argue that he has priors for saving people from Nazis. Yeah, Russia does anyway. You know what I mean?
Yes,
not him.
Absolutely. Yeah. Not him personally. Yes. Yeah. Well, and there is a massive problem with personification here, isn't there? As we can see, and that's what it seems to be. A lot of it is about personification rather than principle. To me, the principle is: do you want peace or not? Yeah. And what's disturbing to me is we're in that, like I said before, we're in that kind of pandemic mindset where I'm actually not that worried about people like Trump and Putin. What worries me at times like these are, what did I call them before? The anonymous utter bastards, the people who will turn on you, who you don't know about, the ones who drove the trains in Nazi Germany and were happy to just, I kind of like the way this is going on, to join in and hurt other people. We don't know those people, do we? They're among us. They're around us who would stick the boot in.
I think as well, something I've been asking for the last 2 days now. I think I put the video up yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, I put one video up a couple of days ago and then one similar kind of topic. But I've been asking people and no one's been able to answer me this question, which is how many people are enough? That's what I've been asking everyone.
It's too simple, isn't it? It's too simple.
I say, how many people? So, okay, you don't want this and that to happen. Well, how many people?
And alternatively, Tony,
can you give me a figure? How many would be too much? Would 1 million be too? If 1 million people have to die to save, and you can see the hyperbole where people say, "Oh, how would you feel if your whole country was invaded?" I go, I don't know, but I don't think their whole country was invaded.
Correct, and turning it round another way,
or they'll say, "Oh, how would you feel if they'd have invaded England?" I'd be like, "Well, I'm English, so it would, I'd feel possibly,
and this sort of sentiment. I'm sorry to pick on this, but I'm not. It's not a personal attack on you, Clever Girl Reading, but this is the kind of thing that for me I find difficult. It's like, well, I can't support a multi-felony convicted person who is held reliable for rape, who is, I see you've written that like that because grown-ups can't say a word out loud on a fucking Christ, who is illegally occupying the White House because, according to the Constitution, and insurrectionists, etc. Now, fair enough. I know you loathe the man, and I don't like him either. but that kind of takes you away from the point. Do you want peace or not? So
exactly. That's why I say how many people is enough, because sometimes you got to stop. You got to go beside the point.
Yes,
not beside the point. No, the opposite.
Direct to the point.
Direct to the point.
Yes,
like forget about the besides. So, for example, Putin maybe this, maybe that. Zelensky maybe a hero. My view might be different if it was England. Blah 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 blah. How many people need to die? That's it.
Sorry, I'm laughing at crypto.
Just answer me that question.
Okay, of course it was. Okay, thank you, clever girl.
Crypto's got a solution, hasn't it?
Yeah, clearly, it's a win-win, all holistic win-win. You know,
what a
passport! I think
this is instead of the golden visa, this is the red visa.
Yeah, the bloody visa.
The bloody visa.
You know, if you like, yes, I want peace, but not if he's going to deliver it. There's something wrong with that. There is something wrong with that, because, you know, there aren't that many.
Yeah. How much do you have to hate Trump?
For him,
how much do you have to hate him? Where you hate him so much, it's like I would rather 100,000
World War III
die.
People are saying things like that.
I do not want peace if he's going to deliver it. I want I don't care. You can kill 1.5 million more. You can bankrupt Europe.
As long as I'm not on his side, we're okay.
As long as I'm not on his team. Or
there is a simpler approach as well, and that's why I find it fascinating. And it feels like we're 5 years ago again. It's like, okay, if you want to support Ukraine, send your money and your kids. That's the other thing. Not my kids. You know, like
that's the other thing I say to people. I've got a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old boy, and I said this. I've got the receipts, guys, because I've got a YouTube channel. You can go back through my channel, and I made a video called "Not My Sons," where I predicted this. I predicted it. I said, look at you can see the trajectory. It's getting hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter. And now we've got Keir Starmer with his. Have you heard this? Stormtroopers.
Yeah, I mean,
stormtroopers.
Have you seen him punching a punch bag?
They were never going to put boots on the ground, were they? Now they're going to put and planes in the air.
He's
so
what? His own boots on the ground. He's not going to put his own boots on the ground. Yeah,
we've heard whispers. We've heard whispers about conscription, haven't we?
Of course we have. Yeah. We've gone from prescription to conscription in 5 years.
Prescription to conscription. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's my perspective. So
if you want it, if you want it, you do it. Send your money, go fight, send your children. Please don't send your children.
Well,
but don't send mine. Don't send mine.
The funny thing was, and it's not funny, but in the beginning, there was a lot of kind of, do you remember there were a lot of British people who said, I'm going to go fight in the front line? Do you remember a few years ago, there was a kind of a thing where a lot of British guys would go fight in the front line in Ukraine.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember, and most of them a lot of them were killed, but a lot of them came back. So we were just treated like cannon fodder.
Yes.
There was no training.
What did they expect?
Some of them were sent to the front line with even no weapons. You know what I mean? It was just
Yeah, I mean it's the same with jihadists. I think they're called, aren't they? Who go and fight. You know, British-born Muslims, extreme Muslims who want to go and fight, go to a front line, and it's not quite what they imagined when they were preparing themselves, reading about war on the internet. With peace, the money laundering would have to stop. And that is a problem, as well as the reality laundering. That's my point, Bob. We are having our very reality laundered as well, and focused in all sorts of ways. And it's important not to lose your mind to it, as well as your money. Thanks, Bob, for being here. Trump wants the raw earth from Ukraine. Nobody knows what he's talking about. Probably doesn't know himself, does he? Presumably rare earth, but nobody picked him up on that. I am Portuguese born here, says Carlos Castelejo, but I was raised in Australia, so I consider myself somewhat British. But I mourn for what my beloved England has become. I don't know what Ingsoc is. Has taken power and it will never leave. We got it.
It wasn't Ingsoc 1984.
It looks like something that's going to get us banned from YouTube. But anyway, tell us what it is. Why is sending troops and arms the only way to peace? Well said, Lucky Raindrops. Trump is offering a different solution, but let's take it from there. Because people don't like him and they don't want peace if it's associated with him, right? The big daddy move. Ubi, the traitor in chief. Ubi, you're so not over it. The traitor in chief of America, KK Khan Oblast. Acts. He's really riffing on all of these themes. There's one with his daddy Vlad. Anyone who's been paying attention has seen that Orange Julius Caesar has been a Russian.
See, my problem is, like, I mean this with the greatest. I know it's not going to sound respectful, but I can't take you seriously.
Yeah, right.
I just can't take you. I can't. Once you go, Orange Man,
name calling,
KKK, white supremacist, Putin's bitch. I can't take you seriously anymore because you're just like a talking point reel. Do you know
and
what I mean?
It does sound like a bit like Capture, doesn't it? Like,
yeah,
you know,
it's just silly.
the propaganda,
and also it's beside the point.
Yeah.
How many people have to die? How many more people have to die?
Which brings us to this comment. So, what is your cost? Would you say, Clever Girl Reading? Especially
how many?
Yeah, go on.
How many Clever Girl Reading?
What is the cost? I say, let's have peace. I don't want to send my children. I won't be going to fight if I could conscientiously object to my tax being spent in Ukraine or any other investment. When you see the footage, for example, of Zelensky looking at missiles with some really totally disgusting people signing missiles that are going to be dropped on other human beings, and they're all laughing or bloodthirsty.
This is the thing, and you're not allowed to say that because as soon as I say something like this, of course I'm a Putin lover. But you know, those Russians are also young men.
Yes,
with families.
Is that a newsflash for people, Tony?
And I guarantee you that when they get up in the morning, they don't think, "Oh, I'm the evil one. We're on are we the baddies?" You remember that? Are we the baddies? Yeah, well, they don't get up thinking they're baddies. You know.
Yes, and everything we've been told about, and that's why I think, you know, our contexts are also important. Well, we've all got reasons for having the positions we have. And I think there's a massive unraveling going on at the moment of all the structures we know. Part of it is everything we've been brought up to believe about Russia.
Okay, Clever Girl. Well, how many? How many?
Yeah. Peace requires blood. Whose?
Whose blood? Whose blood are you willing to spill, Clever Girl Reading?
Okay.
And how many?
Move on from the personality. Let's get objectively thinking. Yes, if I may say, Lucky Raindrops, everything we think we know about people's personalities and being evil, we've been told that. I've no personal experience in these matters. I have a sense of what's going on, and I know my own position. I own my own position of wanting peace and not wanting to fund or in any way the continuation of this. And I think it's important for people to recognize that what they think they know about this, and I will step down or away from my point if people do have personal experience of what they're talking about here and not just what they've been told for decades after decades after decades by a machine. We should bear that in mind. We've been educated to have the responses we have. They're not from, or indoctrinated, you might say. They're not from personal experience necessarily, unless they are, and I will withdraw if that's the case. What Lecky said, let's move on. I don't know. I was a soldier, not a leader. Okay. Trump only wants the minerals from Zelensky's country. It's all about money as usual. And what's peace? Males are violent worldwide, even during times of peace. I don't know. That's a bit nihilist, isn't it? I mean, we're not. I hope we're not violent. I don't think I've injured or hurt anyone in the last, as long as I can remember, in this way that we're talking about here. I haven't done anything like that or had an evil intent. But you know, I don't know what you're accusing us of or suggesting there. And it's not. I really. This is not about arguing points out that come in. I think we are trying to get to something bigger than this, aren't we? It's like, how can we reach peace, and how can we transcend this nonsense that's going on at the moment, where the reality is being laundered and manipulated in front of our very eyes at the moment? Are you reading some comments there, Tony?
Yeah, I am.
What are you seeing that's caught your eye?
Most of the comments on my side are reasonably. I mean, I've probably, to be fair, I've probably lost most of my subscribers who are
who don't like you,
who are aggressively having opinions that don't gel with mine, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Remember the Russia issue is not confined to Ukraine. There's Georgia too. Well, they've always got that up their sleeve, I suppose, would be one cynical way of looking at it. I think the Americans are there doing business with the mineral. Haven't they always, though? Hasn't it been going on for ages? Russia will have second thoughts in going into. And what is this thing that somebody said earlier on? And I was countering some Facebook stuff I saw earlier, where I saw a list of all the things that Russia had done, and a sort of lecture on how people are brainwashed. And it looked like a brainwashing list of its own to me, you know, that Russia has this list of aggressions. I think over the same time period, the United States has a similar but much slicker invasions of other people's countries, time and time again, probably a longer rap sheet of infiltrating people's economies and political systems. And isn't that an act of war in a way, or underminement of another state? And this idea, and I was just having starting a conversation with somebody on Facebook about this. This idea of the promise not to extend NATO towards Russia, that if that was true, that has been broken. I don't know who was saying it earlier on, but somebody mentioned that as well. Are you familiar with that point, Tony? That we've been aggressive towards Russia and reneged on an agreement that was made many decades ago.
Yeah, and I mean we've got there's a it's just happened again recently, hasn't it, with Finland? I mean now the Ukrainian border is almost the smallest of the non-NATO borders, if that makes sense, if you draw a line on the map. I mean they've really pushed and pushed and pushed. I mean I think what Russia wanted was a kind of a no man's land in a way between themselves and NATO,
I
don't know. You just can't say anything these days, because as soon as you do, it's like you Putin lover. So I don't love Putin. I don't even know anything about him.
If you want to speak up, that is what you do. That's never stopped you, to be fair. I mean, I think Ricky Gervais, who was recently in Portugal, said this. I saw a little clip of him saying, "Stop saying you can't say this anymore. You can.
I know.
Yeah, and you do several times a day on your YouTube channel. There was a treaty about it to bring down the wall between East and West Germany. It can be researched." That's what I thought, and that point was made earlier on, that part of the end of the Cold War was to have that no man's land between NATO and Russia, and us. I mean, not me, but the people whose side we're supposed to be on, who we've been brought up to, whose side we're told we were on, Tony. They backed out, or they didn't follow through on that. They've moved NATO ever closer towards Russia, and if that was part of the agreement, then we do have some hand in that, don't we?
I think the other thing I see that's interesting is people need to. I think I'm not saying like I know everything that's going on, because I really don't. But you got to pay attention to who's talking. So, for example, we've got Boris Johnson back in the mix now, haven't we?
We do,
and he's pro Zelensky, but of course, a lot of people have got very short memories. Now there was a peace agreement. There could have been peace a couple of years ago, but Boris Johnson scuppered that. Now, why is he suddenly back? Because you know why? He either wants to have another crack at being the PM and leading the Conservatives, or he's angling for his place in the EU, isn't he? It's one of them. It's always like that.
It's always like that process. It is a recruitment process.
Then who did I see the other day? Alistair Campbell talking about how disgusting Trump was, and Vance, how disgusting they are. How disgusting is Alistair Campbell?
Words can't describe. Words can't describe.
Who has got any? But this is what I'm saying, where people have got extraordinarily short memories. I don't even think I've got a good memory, but I remember. He was part of the wanker brigade that
war. Do you
know what I mean? This guy is literally a murdering scumbag. This guy should literally be in prison for life.
Quite. I agree with you.
And people are listening to this guy, and he's like, how dare this guy call anyone disgusting?
But because it comes back to what I was saying before, if your emotional fire is already burning about something, somebody saying something that you like, and that is a log on your emotional fire. It doesn't matter who said it and what your memory might be or not be about them. You'll take that log and you'll chuck it on and you'll burn. And that's what people are doing at the moment. People are burning up, and perhaps not taking a cool light of logic to this, if that's not a mixed metaphor. There's a lot on fire at the moment, and all of these traumatic triggered responses are well supported by world events. So you do have to cut yourself some slack and get out of it. And I think recognize that it is all part of the systems that we know breaking down. They are breaking down. And these are the last little bits of toing and froing before that happens. So it's better to make some positive preparations, and I don't mean that in a doom mongering way. This could be a wonderful moment for humanity if we unlatch ourselves from these obsessions.
Well, funnily enough, I was speaking about this today. What occurred to me, and this is a complete topic change, but it's somehow related, because I see this. I see I see this as part of a collapse, a broader societal collapse. I don't think it's going to happen overnight, but I think it's slowly. Well, I think it does happen slowly. But what it was is I was with a pal yesterday in a cafe, and he was saying, where I live in Oliver at the hospital, there was a shop, a kind of a tool shop. It was like in a back lane somewhere, and we used to like it because he used to sell screws really cheaply. And then the guy passed. Yeah. So it's this is a country town thing, right?
Your hardware shop, yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, real local guy, and he used to sell them. He'd weigh them, and he'd sell them to you by weight, And they were like seriously, they were about a third of the price of the big superstores, And it was kind of like our little secret, we knew about it. But anyway, unfortunately, he passed away, and everyone was really sad about it. And anyway, I was speaking to my friend Malcolm yesterday. He said, "Hey, remember that tool shop?" He said, "It's reopened." I said, "Oh, really? They're selling tools again?" He said, No. It's a different thing. They've opened this. I'm going to go check it out and hopefully make a video about it this week. But it's a scheme where they're teaching young people, boys and girls, but I'm going to say mostly boys. But anyway, what they're doing is they're teaching young people practical skills. So he was saying when he was there yesterday, they had a car. They'd opened up the front and put a car in there, and they had them all jacking the car up and taking the wheels off and putting new wheels on.
Well done.
And all this. Yeah, so I hope I could get in there and make a video about it. But it got me thinking today about like what happened to those skills. So we hear so much about toxic masculinity and that kind of thing. And it just got me thinking about how a lot of those skills that not saying only boys can do it or only girls can do other things, but what I think has happened in a way is the baby's been thrown out of the bathwater a bit, and now a lot of young people just don't learn any of those skills. So
why don't we start courses on how to throw the bathwater out? Because that's the first and foremost, isn't it? Elephant in the room, recognizing elephants in the room and how to correctly throw out bathwater would be a really good course correction.
Well, these may be things that are more important than worrying about like Orange Man or
right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So for example, I could cast my mind back. Do you remember when sometimes I'd be on the show with Katia? Do you remember?
Yes.
And we were talking about, I remember we were having a conversation with Katia, and she'd also been thinking about this, is that if things do go bad, it's quite likely that people will leave the city to come back to the country.
Yeah.
And my concern would be that a lot of people, because there's a lot more people in cities than in the country. So my concern is a lot of people are going to rock up expecting to be fed who've got nothing to offer. You know what I mean? They don't know how to. They don't even know how to swing an axe. Or
all right. Look, okay.
Hold a
let me
hammer.
see if I can help you with that. I need to go to the Good Morning Portugal Wine Club in about 12 minutes or so. And we do like to hear what sort of week you've had and if you've got a story from it. Last week's was awesome. It was a teenage recollection, wasn't it? There are cheerful things doing the rounds at the moment, such as World War III predictions. And I think this, again, is like reality laundering. This is just a way of getting your attention, upsetting you and making you useless. So please don't take it too seriously. And at the same time, you'll end up with a map like this, which is a little bit of a glimpse into the past. And when food was thought to be short, which is relative, isn't it? I mean, compared to now, of course. 1918, what was happening? United Kingdom seemed to be able to feed itself very well, as did Spain and Portugal. And it's interesting to look at this, isn't it? And why that might have been. Why was France, with so much land, so sort of pathetically touched and undermined in that situation there?
I don't know. They probably deserved it, though.
Come on, don't be like that. It was going so well. Portugal, sufficient food supply, and I think the potential is there for the very same in the conditions that might be coming about. And as you say there, who is that? Someone, yes, a clever girl reading. We're headed towards a collapse, and good idea, yes, to retrain, to re-educate people in actually useful things in their local community. The EU won't survive this year, says Carlos. I hope the US tariffs will bankrupt it. The money printing will cause runaway inflation. We know what happens when Germany had runaway inflation. Lucky raindrops. If decisions towards peace.
What's that? An Austrian painter steps
Possibly,
up.
yes. Yeah, collapse will not likely happen, okay, with peace. But it depends what you mean by collapse. A collapse of this nonsense wouldn't be such a bad thing, would it? Really? Zelensky was popping in Russia with his series. Putin didn't like it.
Oh,
I'm
it's
sure there's more
TV
to it than that,
series.
right? I think, do you have to have a TV series to get elected as a president these days? I think teach everyone the skills the youth appear to unfortunately occupy a dispossessed space where most responsibility has been taken away from them, with the onus on only earning money in order. Well, if that disappears as a possibility, you have to get good with your hands again, don't you? You really do. I mean, there's no option. In the 90s, there was a collapse in Russia. I want to say Venezuela. Anyhow, there's books on why Russia suffered, but Venezuela survived and thrived. Thank you for that. My point being that, like a lot of Jews, I can smell a Nazi a mile away, and there are only two ways to effectively deal with Nazis. Peace in our time ain't one of them. Okay, Ubi. To pay for things that they
How many
do for themselves.
How many?
Yep.
How many?
Why was there a 1918 food shortage? The British blockade in the main. Wow. The Iberian Peninsula was not blockaded. Much of France was a war zone. Thank you for that, crypto strategist. And yes, Geeza.
Yes.
Lol. Oh, vote of confidence view. But I'm all for the a positive collapse, if that makes sense. Us talking about collapse is not entirely might not necessarily fill people with hope, but how long?
Fills me with hope.
Current system that people despise.
Fills me with hope. Fills me with hope.
It does. If you can think of it as dismantling of the current system, dysfunctionality going. Yes, of course, and we become functional again as human beings.
Yeah, I think very few people have any thought that the current system is working or sustainable or likely to improve. Like, things aren't going to get better, are they? If we keep going on the trajectory we're going, things are getting worse. And I think I was saying this, was it last week? I was saying how I think I was speaking to you about the young people that I saw, and I was thinking about the world we've left them. And I think it's been a long time since I've spoken about this, but I remember seeing on the WF website, they made there's a document written there that's talking about what they call the left behind people, who are the people who didn't want to live in the cities, who didn't want to be atomized into little economic units. And
they were called left behind.
The left behind. And I said, I'm voluntarily the left behind. I don't want that life.
Same here, Geeza. Look, here it is. Do you know there was a word for it?
Oh yeah, I saw this. Yeah, it's interesting. I get it. The actual meaning of this word is a little bit more extreme than is given in this paragraph, but
it's a step in the right direction, is it not?
Yeah. But that was the thing, is because everyone knows that to go out and live a more rural lifestyle comes with this hardship. Do you know what I mean? There's this hardship that comes with that.
There is. Absolutely. And how it's been practiced by many, as in to go and, instead of live privately in a city, live privately in the country. That's not sustainable either, is it? On scale and en masse. I mean, it's an understandable psychological reaction for human beings at the moment, but we do have to learn to cooperate and collaborate. And that's part of this package of renewal, isn't it? Is to learn how to work together again and overcome all of these petty things that become incredibly divisive.
It's interesting because I do talk to people sometimes on practical about practical ideas. Like, for example, it's been raining a lot, and every year when it rains a lot, I always think the same thing. I think blimey, every year it rains like this all winter and we don't catch that water. And I think, if I was the head of my village, what I would do is I would buy in bulk a whole load of water tanks, and let everyone around here's got a bit of land to have a water tank at cost. But the deal is, if there's a fire, the bomberos don't have to ask; they can just come and tap into the water. This kind of thing. And the other thing I thought about was, solar panels. There's a lot of empty fields around here. Instead of people here and there just buying one bit of solar, and why not, as a community, why don't we buy a whole field of solar? Those of us who are a little bit more wealthy can chip in.
Yes,
and all the older people can have free electricity. And then eventually it'll pay for itself. Then we can all have free electricity. You know what I mean? But you need a community.
Doable. Yes.
You need two things. You need a community, but it still has to remain small. It has to be a small,
and you need willingness. Don't you need
community.
vision and willingness. Yeah. And I think these things are happening. We're not hearing about them, but I think the direction of travel that's off the radar, that's hidden away from the laundered reality, is a good one. And people are already doing
even vehicles. I see it every morning on my walk. I will make a video about this at some point. And I see it on my walk. I see every morning that it's not a rush hour compared to a city, but there is that 7:30 where there's all the people, and I look at them. I find it amazing. So the people who race into Oliveira Hospital every morning at the same time, and they're always the same. They're always in nicer cars. Do you know what I mean? Because they've probably got a nice cushy job in the thing, so they've got enough money to pay for a nicer car to drive to their slave labor desk. You know, to make their commute to hell,
to meet the payment.
But you see them, they're driving very fast, and they've got that kind of grimace, you know, because I'm going to work, so you know I've got to go very quickly, and I always think, well, you're all going from Travancore to Ollie, so surely 3 or 4, you know, this is where people think, who are you and what have you done with the Portuguese? But I really do think like this. I think, why aren't 3 or 4 of you in that car?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's communism.
Yeah.
See, I can smell a communist a mile off, Tony. That was a communist strategy, and you have been rumbled, my friend.
Do you know what I mean, though?
Yeah.
People just don't look very happy. I would say, look, why not just stay home? You'll have a bit less money, get a dog, and just you know,
which is directly from the Portuguese's Way of Life, the new book that's coming out by Tony Bryant.
Which get a dog. Get a dog.
Right. A wise man once said, now I saw it on the internet. I like this a great deal. Now, this may seem controversial for some, or indeed many. I finally caught up with some of the world news, always late to the party. And I think this was published maybe end of last week or over the weekend. It seems that folk are in a tizzy with the meeting of 2 comedians, one tangerine and an actual comedian, with a vodka drinker waiting in the wings, ready to re-enter the comedy club stage. Now, I'm no fan of any of them, but I am a massive fan of peace and zero bloodshed. We're with you, whoever wrote this. Now, that you don't have to like the brokers, but I will say that if you ain't for peace, however that is manifested, then you ain't for me. At this point, be under no illusion. If you are in support of the continuation of a war created by the industrial military complex, funded by central banking, and we're getting a lot of here, aren't we? If this was the British Parliament, enabling billions of dollars to be laundered with forced selling of some of the world's most fertile land as collateral for the aid in the form of weapons of death, then you are complicit, and any further bloodshed will stain your hands and hearts. So far, so good, Tony? I'm with this. This is not a popularity contest. We're talking about human lives. Please be for peace. It's what the world needs and deserves. Note, I won't be drawn into any kind of debate on this topic. You're an even wiser man than I thought. I'm not trying to change anyone's personal feelings, but it felt important to state my own, which is peace, love, acceptance, and unity. Well said.
Who wrote that?
Don't know. It was on. Well, I don't have their permission to say so. I've shared it. I didn't ask you, so I'm not saying who he or she is, and they might want to own it, they might not. But point being, whoever said it, it's not about, like we said before, it's not about who's saying it, is it? It's about what's being said.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah,
and what's being said there, I completely here.
Yeah, funny enough,
I lifted them off social media.
Slightly different, but similar in a way. I've watched. There's a few YouTubers who do this social experiment. They will, for example, you know, everyone used to hate. They'd either love Biden or love Trump or hate the, you know what I mean? Everything's very divided. So what he would do is he would go out and he would pick one of their policies. So he would pick a Trump policy, let's say, and then go ask Biden guys, this is Biden's policy. What do you think of it? And they'd go, yeah, that's fantastic. Well, yeah, what a great idea. And then he'd go, that's actually Trump's policy. And then he would do it the other way around to other people. So it's quite funny to see people.
It is.
So because basically, I suppose it's possible that some of them just did like the policy, but the point was it was kind of showing the evidence that a lot of people aren't, that if that's your guy, you're going to like whatever he says.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
If he's not, if he's not your guy, you're going to be against whatever.
But then
he says.
if you're doing that, you know, you might want to have a look and know you've been captured, right? Hit that.
You've been yeah, that's what you have to do, and we all do it. I'm sure we all do it to a degree.
Of course we do, but we
all do it. Yeah,
we need to keep self-reflecting, don't we? And you know, you can get drawn further into it and double down. You can be right instead of happy, or you can maybe expand a bit and consider things, and we'll keep the conversation going. Like it says, it's not black and white. That's what we're here for on a Monday evening at 7. Tony, anything extra interesting or otherly interesting?
Well, I think the only thing I've been thinking about is in the end, we all die. We're all going to die. This is something that people are going to be.
What?
Well, we're all going to die. We are
Seriously?
all going to die. And I just want to say that for me, all I hope for is to die peacefully in my sleep, like my grandfather, not screaming and yelling like the passengers in his car.
Munson and the Geeza. Munson and the Geeza. Reporting from the scene, Munson and the Geeza. News in every ride.